So World Juniors just concluded. Team USA takes gold. So just kind of a cool segment to talk about if anything really changed. I mean, it's tough with the NHL draft because so many guys get omitted from the rosters, like whether they're too young or the maturity or whatever you want to get at. So there's certain guys that obviously took part in this tournament, some guys that won't get the opportunity until next year, but it's also just fair to look at what we saw. And I mean, spoiler alert, you see at the number 1 and 2 spot, I mean, Riley, I think it's fair to say what we saw from Porter Martone versus what we saw from James Higgins, I think makes a huge difference on I mean, I can speak for myself on how I look at it, at least. I don't know how you look at it, but just start there. I think that's actually the best way to put it. Like, I think Michael Misa got omitted from the Team Canada team. Matthew Schaefer got or faced an injury earlier in the tournament, so that sucks, and that kind of obviously plays a part in how you look at it. But Martone, Higgins both played the full complete tournament for their respective teams. Obviously, Canada gets eliminated in the quarterfinals. Team USA wins gold. How do you look at it right now? Because for me, I was maybe on the lens of like I could see a Misa or Schaefer go first overall. Now I'm really fully back on the lens of I think Higgins is the undisputed number 1 for me. How do you see it?
I also look at James Higgins and I see him being the undisputed number 1. When you look at when Schaefer was playing, he was very, very good. Sucks that he only played a game and a bit, and but he did look very, very good. When you're looking at past prospects that went first overall and they played in the World Juniors, I thought they really stood out, like Lafreniere and McDavid and Eichel when they were drafted. I feel like they really stood out.
Bedard.
Whereas I don't really feel like Higgins has stood out. Those guys were generational prospects, but yeah, I don't think Higgins has stood out. But the other guys definitely took a step back. I think Porter Martone definitely took a bit of a hit. I mean, he wasn't really played as much as you'd want him to, and as much as Canada wanted Dave Cameron to play him. But when you look at, yeah, it's more of the other guys dropped, in my opinion, than Higgins taking off. But yeah, Canada took a lot more draft eligible guys this year than they normally take. So that also speaks to how good Martone and Schaefer and like
Well,
I'm so really
Misa, we didn't
surprised they
take
didn't
Misa,
take
right? So I guess
they didn't.
that's the additional conversation. Does not taking Misa and Misa not getting that showcase take a hit, or if Saginaw like, I'll say this right now, Riley. If I was an NHL GM going into the draft and everyone's healthy, like health is not a factor, and positional need is not a factor, my 1-2 punch right now is James Higgins and Matthew Schaefer. Are
Oh,
you different?
100%. I no, I 100% agree with that. I will say I agreed with Michael Misa taking a hit, not being on the team. However, when you look at how the team played, I don't think it's much of a hit. Also, how the team was picked, you have a guy who was taken in the second round last year, picked over a guy who was taken third overall. So I think it's more of a head scratching on the selection than Misa taking a hit now that the tournament has concluded. But definitely, Misa missed out on an opportunity to show why he could be number 1. That's for sure, because he didn't get any opportunity to show he should have been number 1. But yeah, I don't know. This top four is definitely still jumbled in my opinion because I mean Higgins did look really, really good, but I don't know. He's just missing something for me personally, but I'm not an NHL scout, that's for sure. What do you think?
No, that's fair. I think it's just the flashes, and I also think it's just like right time, right moment. Like, yeah, you know what? His goal wasn't the most pretty thing ever in that gold medal game, but I think just getting on the board and I mean, yeah, he wasn't as noticeable as like a Perot or a Ryan Leonard, but those guys are more established prospects at this
Yeah,
point.
100%.
So, I guess for me, yeah, you know what? Like, did he absolutely like destroy out the World Juniors? No, but I think again, I feel like we talk about the different levels, whether it's generational, elite, all of that. I mean, you're right. I think to a certain point, we didn't see that, yeah, McDavid or Bedard level, but I still feel like when you see like how maybe the certain moments from Lafreniere, the certain moments like a Celebrini, I still think we saw that in some moments from Higgins. I do think U.S. and again, this is just speaks more on the U.S. development program. Like they had a few other guys that were just standouts. And I mean, Ryan Leonard had quite the tournament, obviously. I do think that, and this is kind of an extension of the conversation, I do think that Canada, talking about like ignoring the age, like, because I don't know if you remember this conversation before they selected the rosters, like they didn't look at birth certificates and why they took like Gavin McKenna, but at the same time it's like I look at like the two-way game aspect or the guys with edge, and we'll talk about the rest of the guys on this list, like a Malcolm Spence. So they took a guy like Luca Pinelli. Again, you can talk about the Ottawa 67's connection with Dave Cameron, but Malcolm Spence for me is a guy with edge, big body, all of that. So when you go into the draft, and this is two Canadians that we'll probably see in the World Juniors next year, Cameron Schmidt and Malcolm Spence. So Malcolm Spence, you're getting a little bit more of what I just talked about, versus Cameron Schmidt is 5'7". He's ripping it up in the dub right now. I think he's got not quite a goal per game, but I think he's got like 20-something, high 20s and 30-something games. So I guess for your aspect, I mean, you're a Sabres fan and you saw Zach Benson fall to you guys. We watched Cole Caulfield fall to the Montreal Canadiens for middle of the first round. Are we still in that world, Riley, where size can really knock you down? Because as of right now, this is November rankings. We're in January, so it's about a month and a bit apart from when Craig Button ranked here. But I mean, to me, Cameron Schmidt's probably not in my top 10 for a mock draft. Maybe in terms of rankings is different, but are we really seeing a 5'7" guy drafted that high? I mean, that's the question, right?
I think it's really tough to draft a 5'7" guy that high. I'll be honest with you, and I haven't watched much of Cameron Schmidt, but I can tell you that I watched a ton of Zach Benson, and everything that I saw for the hours and hours that I watched Zach Benson before the draft was telling me like this guy is a good player. This guy is tenacious on the forecheck. He's very smart. He's got a like decent shot for his size, but he like if there's anything like Zach Benson is not a guy that you pass up on because of size, because he makes up for it in so many ways. You see so many guys that fall because of size, and Caulfield is one of those guys because like he's a bit of a one-trick pony when it comes to his goal scoring. Benson, however, did it all. Cameron Schmidt, I can't really speak to that much, but you do see guys with size fall all the time, and you also see guys without size getting cut from Team Canada. Savoy didn't make it until his last year. There's a bunch of other guys that are slipping my mind right now, but a bunch of guys don't make it just because of their size on Team Canada.
No, for sure. The size aspect is big. I think Anton Frundell is another guy. I mean, I've watched some clips of him. I think he's probably top 10 fair. Again, Cameron Schmidt, I think probably falls. So you're probably at, right now, if I could go for a mock in terms of top 10, you're probably at, for me, and dispute me, Riley, please dispute. I would personally go Higgins, Schaefer. I think Martone hasn't lost his top 3 spot, but again, we'll see how the rest of the season goes. I think Misa can still keep his spot. I mean, you're talking about what he's done so far in his CHL career. I also think his scoring ability is inevitable. You could probably put Frundell. I thought Hensler was an interesting addition in this top 10 for Button. I mean, he just played in the World Juniors for Team USA. I thought he was noticeable. He's also you can't ignore the right shot defenseman aspect, at least for some scouts when they're drafting.
100%,
so
that's huge.
That's an aspect too. Again, there's also like a lot of OHL and WHL inclusion here. Our guy Jake O'Brien from the Brantford Bulldogs. My thing about Jake is I just keep going back and forth, and I think certain teams will look at him. I mean, I talked about the you can't ignore the Chicago Blackhawks in this because they've already drafted Vanacker and Lardis from the Bulldogs. So I think OB can get into the top 15 potentially, but talk about, I mean, you talked about Denoyer and Spence. Do you see those guys as top 10? I mean, I know you were talking high on Denoyer. The other guy I would talk about that we've seen a lot in the OHL too is Kashawn Aitchison, who we've seen for Barrie. He's got 10 goals on the year, and Reppin, I think he's like close to a point per game as well. I mean, he's just a beast. Like, I don't know if he's 6'1", 6'2", but he's also just a beast, and I think a team could look at a guy like that plays both ways. I would say maybe he sneaks into the top 15.
I absolutely love Kashawn Aitchison. Watching the Bulldogs play against Kashawn, he's a tough dude. Like he brings a lot of heat from the back end. He's a bit of a disturber. He likes to rush the puck. He can panic at some points, but like personally, that's who a guy I would like Buffalo to have on the back end. He's all that and more from the back end. Trust me, I believe he's going to be on the back end for Team Canada next year. He's a very, very solid defenseman. With Jake O'Brien, I feel like he's a guy you gotta watch a lot to really, really appreciate. He's a guy where if you go and watch one game and he's not going to stand out to you at all. Like it takes reps of watching him to realize this guy's got vision that nobody else has. This guy's got like the IQ of him is unbelievable. The last couple games he's been trying to, or the last couple weeks he's been trying to shoot more, and it's been working. He's scored probably twice as many goals already as he did last year, which was a big knock on him that he was a playmaker only. I'm not going to call him physical in any way. He's almost like built like a straw. Like he's super, super skinny and
Yeah.
um, that'll knock him down for sure, but he is a very, very good player. Um, I think Malcolm Spence kind of reminds me of Caden Lindstrom. To go back to Malcolm Spence a bit, he is like tenacious forechecker. Like he was getting in the Bulldogs' faces every single time that he went into the zone. Um, the skill, the like he's like the total package in my opinion. And then sorry, I'm blanking here, but I'm going back to Misa is like I don't want to stir the pot or throw shade at anybody, but is there something character-wise that might push him down a little bit? It seems like there's always something around him, the teddy bear toss moment that he had.
Yeah.
Because to me, skill-wise, he is very, very good.
There's
Exceptional
no, yeah,
status
there's
into the
no,
OHL.
yeah, there's no way you can dispute his talent. No way.
For me, he's above Martone skill-wise, but there's feels like there's something there where he might even drop to 6 or 7 just because of the question marks around him. It's very strange because there's nothing concrete about it like there was with Connolly last year and stuff. So
And also, we can't ignore what happened with Shane Wright, Riley. We can't. We cannot ignore what happened with Shane Wright there. This guy was marked as an undisputed first overall pick, and it wasn't performance. That's the crazy part. Everyone forgets the Shane Wright draft. If you go back to it, this is not a performance thing. This was a situation where he did make some comments that were overconfident. There were some things that people talked about off the scenes, and all of a sudden this guy's dropping. And he was marked as the first overall pick for like 2 years. So again, I don't think Michael Misa was ever regarded as that, but I think he's kind of been regarded as an easy top 3, top 4 selection. As you said, he could drop a little bit. The one thing that we kind of didn't bring up and somewhat my fault.
sorry. Before I don't know what you're gonna go to, but I really want to touch on this super quick.
Yeah.
Victor Eklund, I see him at 11. He had an amazing World Juniors, and he could shoot up very far. He was one of Sweden's best forwards of the tournament. Like they're very, very lucky that he performed as well as he did because they wouldn't they could have gotten snubbed a lot earlier. There was a lot of games earlier where I don't know if they had it, and Victor Eklund was very, very good. I didn't even realize he was a draft eligible player until like halfway through the tournament because he looks like one of the older players out there. The way he was playing, I was really impressed with Victor Eklund, and I saw his name and I had to get it in there before we moved on.
No, you're good. You're good. No, what I was going to bring up is Roger McQueen. I don't know if he re-aggravated his injury, but I saw the news a couple weeks ago that he's going to be out till February. But for guys that don't know Roger McQueen, he's 6'5", plays for the Brand Wheat Kings in the WHL. I think before his injury, I think he had like a goal per game, like solid goal per game. So again, we know scouts love their size. We love the size of a big centerman. So just on that aspect alone, I'll look at a guy like Roger McQueen, and I've seen it before. I mean, it's very easy to reference a Leaf, but Morgan Riley, like out for most of his year, like a lot of people would have said he would be the first overall. He dropped to 5. I think for a guy like Roger McQueen, Button's got him at 7 here. I just wonder if a team gets a steal here just because he won't be able to play much of his draft year. We'll see. Again, 6'5", goal per game center. Those don't come very often, so look out for him. I don't know if there's anyone else you wanted to bring up, Riley. I think maybe we can just leave it at that in terms of guys to bring up. I know Ryabkin's been brought up as maybe a top 10, top 15 guy. Past that, I'm not
Brady
sure.
Smith is very good too. He could rise. There was a defenseman on Slovakia that I'm trying to find.
The only other thing I was going to bring up, and we've talked about this in recent years, is the lack of Canadian goalies being developed. Ravensburgen and Ivan Kovic, two guys that are probably going to be on the World Junior team next year, but it's crazy because it's probably, for the first time in a very long time, Riley, there's probably a lock for the 3 Canadian goalies next year for the World Juniors. We know Carter George is going to be back, and the 2 guys I just said right there. I can't see it being anyone else. Can you?
I would love to see Ryerson Leanders, but I really don't.
I don't know.
It's going to be tough to see. It's going to be tough to see who's going to start. Carter George really played super well, so I mean he's the shoe-in. But Ivan Kovic played really well. Ravensburgen is projected a higher pick than Ivan Kovic from some of the mock drafts I've seen. But who I really wanted to mention was I don't even know how to say his name. Luka Radojevic. Unbelievable. His movement on the back end kind of reminded me. Obviously, it's a bit of a stretch, but Lane Hudson. He was really moving on the back end. He's a right shot guy, but he is where
is he ranked right now?
Smaller. Pardon me?
Where is he ranked right now or regarded?
Second round.
Oh, okay.
So Craig Button has him at 46. I could see his size. He kind of reminds me of when Seamus Casey was going to get drafted and he fell.
Mm-hmm.
There was like so many people on Twitter saying, this guy is really good. This guy's really good. And because he was small, he fell, I think, into the second round. And look at him now. He's almost cut the New Jersey Devils as one of the first guys from his draft into the NHL. So this Radojevic guy, he's playing with the Muskegon Lumberjacks. He's got a couple points. He's not really lighting it up. 10 points in 19 games in the USHL. But from what I've seen, man, he looked really, really good. And Slovakia really leaned on him. He only had 2 points in 5 games, but Slovakia as a whole wasn't a very good team. But yeah, I wanted to get him mentioned because he really stood out to me. These guys, when these guys have cage, nothing makes me feel better than a guy with a cage really working it out at the World Juniors. And he definitely stood out to me for sure.
No, good call. I'll definitely have to do more of my research into him. The only other mention, just as OHL guys that we didn't really talk about, and we just played against the Kitchener Rangers, is Cameron Reed. He's like inching towards a point per game as a defenseman, 6 goals in the year, already over 6 foot at 17 years old. So again, you talk about the point producers for a defenseman. I remember watching Cameron play, so definitely stood out. I think Kitchener in general has got some up and coming guys because they were kind of like light sellers this year, and they've got some 17-year-olds that are standouts already. So keep an eye on Cameron Reed. Button's got him at 12 on this ranking, so I could see him definitely going in the first round. And I mean, from my count here, Riley, just to cap off this video, you're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. As much as 9 from Craig Button and the OHL in the first round. That's pretty impressive.
The OHL is really, really loaded this year. A funny thing on Cameron Reed, too, is when USA was playing the CHL, I believe one of the games was in Kitchener, but I know the whole Kitchener Rangers team went out and watched him and like supported him during that game, which I thought was really, really cool and speaks to this guy must be a likable guy if the whole team's going out to support him. So,
big note.
Good story.
All right, cool. Well, make sure you guys comment your thoughts, comment your picks for what we've seen after the World Juniors here and what's changed. Subscribe, like, comment, notification bell. Thanks for watching.